There are plenty of foods people say are rare, but most of them are just hard to find in your neighborhood. What I'm about to do is the kind of thing 99.99999% of people will never even attempt: track down one of the rarest honeys on Earth. Not golden. Not amber. Nearly black. The kind of honey that looks like it belongs in a small glass bottle behind a locked cabinet, and tastes like a place, not just a sweetener. And I know what you're thinking: honey, for steak? In Brazil, we take barbecue seriously. Picanha isn't just a cut, it's culture. It's Sunday smoke in the air, the sound of people talking over each other, the ritual of slicing against the grain and offering the best piece to someone you love. So when I heard that certain honeys can tenderize, perfume, and completely transform beef, I couldn't let it go. I needed to see it. To taste it. To understand if it's truth, or just internet fantasy. Today is part documentary, part experiment. We're going from the hive to the grill. From the quiet logic of bees building flavor drop by drop, to the loud, honest moment a knife cuts into a finished steak. But before any tasting happens, there's a rule: you don't talk about honey like it's magical until you've stood where it's made. So I'm suiting up. Gloves, veil, the whole thing. The air changes when you get close to the boxes. You hear it first, this living hum, then you feel the heat coming off the hive like a little engine. And the people who do this every day, they move with calm hands, like they're speaking a language without words. Some hives are booming, packed with activity. Others, strangely quiet. Empty, almost. Why? Different bees, different seasons, different stresses. And if we're chasing the darkest honey, the rare one, we have to understand what conditions create it and why most people will never see it in their lifetime. Before we even open the first box, tell me, have you ever cooked with honey beyond tea or dessert? If you're curious about this kind of Brazilian food experiment, subscribe, because once we find the honey, the picanha test begins, and not all sweetness is created equal. Up close, a hive doesn't feel like a box of insects. It feels like a living city with rules you don't know yet. The air is warm and sweet, but there's also that sharp, green smell of propolis, like a forest squeezed into resin. I pull the veil down, tighten the gloves, and suddenly my own breathing sounds louder than the buzzing. The beekeeper beside me, calm, practiced, touches the lid like he's greeting an old friend. First thing, he says, you don't rush. Bees read your mood. He cracks the top, a thin line of light opening over thousands of moving bodies, and I can't help leaning in. It's hypnotic: workers marching in tight paths, some carrying pollen like tiny saddlebags, others fanning their wings to cool the hive. They're not aggressive, he adds, watching my shoulders. But they defend what they built. We move frame by frame, and I'm surprised how different each one is. Some frames are heavy, capped with wax, the honey sealed like an envelope. Others look almost empty, just comb and a few bees wandering like they missed a meeting. Why is this one bare? I ask. Season, flowers, and stress, he answers. If the bloom is weak, if the weather swings, they eat what they store. And some hives, they simply don't prosper. Nature doesn't promise productivity. He points to a darker section. Now this is what you came for. See the color? In the sun it isn't golden. It's deep amber turning to brown, almost black at the center, like coffee with no milk. The beekeeper rubs a drop between his fingers and brings it to his nose. Different nectar, he says. Different story. Some people spend a lifetime and never taste this. I take a careful smell through the veil. It's not floral like supermarket honey. It's earthy, almost smoky, with something wild underneath, like dried fruit and wood. My brain immediately jumps to food, to a hot grill, to fat rendering, to the boldness of picanha. I ask him, half joking, if this is this intense raw, what happens on meat? He laughs. That's your experiment. But remember, honey isn't just sweetness. It's acids, enzymes, minerals. It behaves. Before we harvest anything, he stops me with a look. One more thing, he says, lowering his voice. Not all bees are the same. The next boxes, they won't welcome you like these did. And as we walk toward the other hives, the buzzing shifts in pitch, and my excitement turns into a very respectful kind of nerves. If you're curious, would you actually cook steak with honey, yes or no? And if you're into these Brazilian food deep dives, stay with me, because the rarest honey is still ahead. The first thing you learn when you step into an apiary in Brazil is that honey isn't just honey. It's geography. It's weather. It's a whole map of flowers and trees translated into something you can taste. I'm standing here zipped into a suit that feels one size too warm, visor fogging at the edges, and the air is thick with that low, electric hum that turns your chest into a speaker. The beekeeper, calm like he's opening a kitchen cabinet, taps the lid of a box and says, "Listen." A calm hive has a steady sound. When they're stressed, it sharpens. He lifts the lid and a warm, sweet smell rises instantly: wax, propolis, something almost herbal. The frames are alive, moving like a single organism. These are Africanized bees, he adds, not dramatic, just factual. They work hard. They defend. Respect them. A few steps over, another box tells a different story. We open it and it's quiet. A couple of stragglers, some empty comb, the rest abandoned. No honey to harvest. No golden payoff. Just proof that nature doesn't care about our plans. The beekeeper points to the comb and explains how nectar becomes honey, how bees fan their wings to pull out moisture, how the cap goes on only when it's ready, like sealing a jar in time. Then he shows me what I came for, a jar set aside like contraband. Nearly black, so dark it looks like cold coffee under shade. When I tilt it, it moves slow, heavy, almost like it doesn't want to leave the glass. This is from a specific bloom, he says. Short season. Few places. That's why you don't see it. I bring it close and the aroma isn't candy sweet. It's deeper. Resin. Burnt sugar. A hint of earth after rain. I ask, do people cook with this? He smiles and shrugs. Most people put honey in tea. Or on bread. But you? You're going to put it on picanha. The word picanha lands like a promise. Before we leave, I look back at the boxes, at the bees going in and out with tiny purpose, and I can't help thinking, this isn't just an ingredient hunt. It's a lesson in patience and risk. If you're curious so far, tell me, have you ever tasted a honey that didn't taste sweet first? And if you're into experiments that turn tradition on its head, stay with me, because next we take these jars to the cutting board, and the real test begins. Back at the prep table, the honey lineup looks almost innocent, like something you'd drizzle on toast, until you remember what it's about to do to picanha. I lay the stakes out like a controlled experiment, same thickness, same fat cap, same rest time. The only variable is the honey. The grocery store squeeze bottle moves fast, bright and floral, almost perfumey. The raw tropical honey pours slower, cloudy with tiny suspended bits that catch the light. The manuka is dense, medicinal, like it's bringing its own opinion to the room. The creamed honey spreads like softened butter. And then the dark one, it doesn't pour so much as it sighs out of the jar, nearly black, the color of strong coffee. Up close, it smells less like dessert and more like the forest after rain: resin, bark, something toasted. I season each picanha simply, because Brazil doesn't hide good meat under a costume. A firm pinch of salt, and then the honey goes on in thin coats, like lacquer. The first surprise is how different they feel under my fingers. Some stay wet and slippery, others tighten and get tacky. The creamed honey clings immediately, filling the tiny grooves of the meat like spackle. The manuka resists spreading, almost gritty, and the dark honey, it stains the fat cap, turning it bronze at the edges. I set timers, label trays, and slide everything into the fridge to cure. As the minutes pass, the surface changes, moisture beads up, then disappears, the honey pulls tight, the meat looks darker, more serious. It's not marinating like a liquid. It's curing like a glaze that's learning the shape of the steak. While we wait, I'm thinking about the bees again. Different hives, different moods, different landscapes. This honey isn't just sweetness, it's geography. It's the plant the bee chose, the season it was made, the stress the hive survived. And if you've ever cooked Brazilian barbecue, you know the fire is honest. It will expose every shortcut. Quick question before we hit the grill: if you had to pick one, would you trust the everyday honey, or the weird, dark jar nobody's heard of? If you're enjoying this little deep dive into Brazilian flavor experiments, go ahead and subscribe, because the moment that first steak hits the heat, everything changes, and one of these honeys is about to shock me. Back at the grill, the whole experiment starts to feel less like just cooking and more like a controlled little documentary in smoke and heat. Same cut every time, same thickness, same salt, same resting time. Picanha doesn't let you cheat. It's Brazil's queen for a reason. That fat cap is a truth serum. If something's too sweet, it shows. If something tenderizes, you feel it before you even swallow. I lay the steaks out like suspects in a lineup, each one tagged only by its honey. The grocery store honey goes on first, bright and familiar, that childhood smell. It spreads easily, almost too easily, like it wants to run. The raw tropical honey is thicker, with a scent that reminds me of ripe fruit left on a wooden table. Manuka is medicinal, sharp in the nose, like it's making a promise it might not keep. The creamed honey is the odd one, pale, fluffy, almost buttery, as if honey decided to become frosting. And then there's the dark one. The nearly black honey. Under the light, it doesn't shine gold, it swallows light. When I tilt the spoon, it moves slow, heavy, with a deep aroma that hits like roasted coffee, cacao, wet earth after rain. The moment it touches the meat, it looks like a glaze you'd expect on something expensive in a Sao Paulo steakhouse, not a backyard test. I catch myself smiling inside the visor of the whole scene, thinking, this is why we chase rare ingredients, not for the brag, but for the question they carry. On the grill, the soundtrack changes. Honey doesn't just caramelize, it negotiates with fire. Some steaks start to brown fast, edges flirting with burnt sugar. The grocery honey bubbles loud and quick, trying to candy the surface. The creamed honey melts into an even coat, surprisingly calm. Manuka darkens in patches, that medicinal note turning into something almost savory. But the black honey, it turns glossy and dark like lacquer, and the smell rising off it isn't dessert. It's barbecue, smoke, bitterness, sweetness, all at once, like the grill suddenly learned a new language. When I slice them, juices run differently. Some fibers look tightened, others relaxed, like the meat actually decided to surrender. Now I need your help. If you had to bet before tasting, which honey do you think makes the picanha most tender, and which one do you think surprises the most? If you're enjoying this kind of Brazilian food deep dive, stay with me and subscribe, because the next bite is where this whole story either pays off, or proves I chased a myth. By the time the last picanha comes off the grill, the air is thick with that Brazilian backyard perfume, smoke, fat rendering, and the faint sweetness that clings to your fingers even after you wash them. I lay the slices out and, for a second, it feels almost absurd that we started the day in a bee suit, listening to a hive like it was a living engine, and now we're here judging honey by what it does to steak. I take a bite of the everyday honey version first. It's familiar, almost comforting, but it pulls sweet right to the front and tries to be the star. This is the one most people know, I say, chewing slowly, and you can taste why it's popular, but it doesn't really respect the meat. The raw tropical honey is next, and it's brighter, more floral. It doesn't shout, it hums. The fat feels softer, the crust more balanced. I catch myself nodding. That one, I tell the camera, feels like it belongs at a Sunday churrasco. Then Manuka. The aroma hits before the bite, medicinal and deep, like a forest after rain. On the steak it turns the outside almost lacquered, and the flavor is bold enough to divide a table. Some people will love this, I admit, and some will say I ruined a picanha. The creamed honey surprises me. It spreads, it melts, it creates an even glaze, and it gives tenderness without that sticky finish. If you're nervous about experimenting, I say, this is the easiest win. And finally, the nearly black honey. The rare one. In the light it looks like coffee syrup, and on the meat it turns into something cinematic, dark, glossy, almost dramatic. The bite is smoky sweet, but not candy. It's bitter at the edges, like toasted sugar, like cacao, and it makes the beef taste more adult. I exhale and laugh under my breath. Okay. That's not normal honey. That's an ingredient. What I learned isn't that expensive honey automatically makes better steak. It's that each honey carries a landscape inside it: flowers, weather, bees, time, and when you put it on Picanha, you're basically grilling a story. Now I want to hear from you. If you had to try just one of these on steak, which would you risk first: the safe, the floral, the medicinal, the creamy, or the almost black mystery? If this journey into Brazilian flavor surprised you, leave a like so I know to keep pushing these experiments, and if you want the next one, because I already have another impossible ingredient in mind, subscribe and come with me.